Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. For those new to the channel, I was a pro options market maker for 15 years and then managed $1 billion in options, income strategies, and downside protect black swan type funds for a decade after that. So a ton of experience, offense and defense. I try to bring that to everything that I do and everything I present to you guys. Please like and subscribe down below if you haven't already. Hit that bell if you can find it, and grab those free ebooks, and that's going to get you into my flow of everything interesting. We're doing fantastic in Leaps Trader. We've really nailed this. I've been calling for a melt up on all my public shows for 1,000 points. Been absolutely saying that the bears are completely and utterly wrong. They're not reading things correctly. They're not reading GDP correctly. And this is really about something that is much, much bigger than CPI going up and down 0.1%. This is a very, very big movement happening here, especially in that inference area, which is going to be a part of AI that really infuses itself into practically everything in our lives. It's like Jensen says, it's not 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000. This is millions of times bigger than we can imagine at this point, and it's quite literally going to be everywhere. So, as always, this is for educational and informational purposes only. Your trade, your responsibility. And if you're okay with that, let's keep going. So some themes we're going to talk about in this sort of basket of non-negotiable ideas are inevitabilities, right? As AI scales from these research labs into every corner of the economy, as I've been saying, we're going to hit these constraints. I do believe that we're going to have some problems at some point, supply chain, inputs, commodities, materials, power. We're going to have basically a sort of geopolitical issue at some point. Non-negotiable means demand is going to ramp up regardless of any economy booming, slowing, whatever. You can think of this any way you want. There's no question. They're going to ebb and flow, and certainly stocks can ebb and flow. You can talk about valuations, but the fact is we're going to need more chips. We're going to need more magnets. We're going to need more power, and we're going to need stronger supply chains, and we're not going to want to rely on other countries. So if we look at semiconductors, for example, which is one we did an Intel video a couple weeks ago, everybody was making fun of me in the comments. You're crazy. The Intel's big turnaround. What are you joking? And I said, you know what? It has nothing to do with Intel being a big turnaround story and becoming the next NVIDIA. It has everything to do with we cannot let Intel fail. It's non-negotiable, right? See, there's the theme right there. Taiwan makes 90% of all the most advanced chips, right? Some other chips are made elsewhere, but the best ones, they have 70% of the foundry share of chips in general. So that is a place that is sitting miles off the coast of China, and China very much believes that Taiwan is part of China. This is not a good situation for something that is absolutely integral to what is being built, the foundation for this new world that is being built. By the way, we did a trade. We made 90% or something like that on Intel. So that quieted everyone down in the commentary there. Now, not just semiconductors. We can talk about power next time, but rare earths and magnets, right? So rare earths aren't just another commodity. They're that lifeblood of clean tech, of AI. We can make high performance electric vehicle motors, wind turbines, cooling fans in data centers. You're going to need these neodymium. You're going to need incentive. Demand is projected to more than double by 2032. And here's the kicker. China controls 70% of the mining and 90% of the processing. Do you see how much power is in the hands of China? Why did the government invest in MP? Non-negotiable. Why did the government help Intel? Non-negotiable. Why is the government getting involved in power generation? Non-negotiable. You see the theme here? And MP, they've already laid it down with MP, right? $12 billion company. They've got this Mountain Pass mine. They're much, much more advanced than USAR, which we're going to talk about today. But USAR is very much that spec up and coming one, right? That's the sort of 2 billion market cap as opposed to 12 plus. It's got a lot higher torque. It is more exploratory. They're still working on getting the rare earths out of the ground. There's some environmental issues, but they have technology that's going to overcome that. And they have another, they're building plants, Oklahoma. They just bought a company in the UK to secure the alloy step of this particular process. So they're starting to add all the layers of what's going to be required. And then I'll bet you anything in this America has to succeed, cannot lose this race. I would not be surprised to see the government get involved, perhaps invest. Perhaps it's as much as just supporting them, giving them favors and pushing this process along, because in rare earths, that are so critical to electrification and all the things that we're talking about, it's going to be an absolute massive demand for these things over time, and we just cannot have one company. So I believe that these guys are going to be supported in many, many ways, and so we've been investing in this thing, and I think it does have a lot of upside. It's very spec. This is a stock that could drop 30% instantly. But I believe that as things play out over the next year, this area will emerge as one of those potential squeezy type areas where the sky's the limit. Who knows where something like this could go, right? And so I think that's very interesting. Let's take a look at some of the plays here. So let's take a look at some of the options pricing. I think things are sort of following the game plan that I talked about 5-6 weeks ago. I said option volatility is way too low given what's going on in the world. And we're starting to see across the board, really, even in big cap tech, a lot of long-term option vols pushing up, and a lot of those upside calls really getting quite a bit pricier than they were before. So exactly as I said would happen. And so we've played a lot of that in Leaps Trader. Now, what we can see here is that we're back up to about 115, 110 on USAR. So it's starting to reflect this explosive potential to the upside. But in a way, I mean, there's no question about it. 100 plus vol is not for the faint of heart. This needs movement. What we had though is this historical volatility really coming down as it sort of flatlined for this whole period in here. So it starts to absorb some of this non-movement in a sense. I mean, it's movement, $3 or $4 is not small percentage-wise, but now that we're getting a push up, I don't think it's that expensive given the explosive potential, right? So you have to understand that I would rather pay a little bit more for options when something explosive is happening than, try to pick the bottom when nothing much is happening, right? So there's always the direction, the velocity of volatility is very, very important in the volatility game, in the options game. So I think this historical vol is probably going to push up again because we're starting to get some movement here. Could we pull back a little bit? Absolutely. But we're seeing a push higher, and I don't think this is incredibly expensive. Look how high it can get. It can get up into the 140, 150, 160 range, and this is in that non-negotiable basket. So who knows where this thing could trade? So let's take a look at the options. Here is our stock. You can see this beautiful, nice rounding happening here. Breaking through this spot here to start to outperform to the upside, getting back to those old highs and really having a little bit of trouble there. But again, AI, non-negotiable, will win out when we're really in a very story-based environment with some fundamental backdrop behind it. So here we go, massive, massive breakout. And we can take a look here. Once this horse is out of the barn, right? This is about jumping on a horse that is already running. Now, we've been picking up some of these 35s, some of these 30s, 32s. And so we can see here, you can pick up a 35 Jan 2027 for about 650, 660. Is that inexpensive? No, it's about a third, almost a third of the cost of this thing. But you have 470 days for this mania to play out. So this is an area where I told members, I said, look, I'm adding a little bit more here, but I'm going to dollar cost average. There's no question that this thing could probably pull back a little bit. And that's where I'm going to sort of start to add a little bit more. But having said that, this is appropriate only for that very spec kind of part of your portfolio. But as I've been talking about for months and months and months, I believe this mania continues. And even if we do pull back in markets, there's going to be this continuation of many of the charts. I showed you my breakout ratio. This stuff is in play. There's no pullback, and the sort of silly money is definitely at play. The aggressive money, the animal spirits money, the fast money is all at play right now, and it's going to play into those option pricing, option volatilities that I showed you, and it's going to play into this potential for another 2021, another 99, 2000 kind of situation. So I'm excited. This is one of those names that I'm putting in that basket. I've been playing it for quite a while. And so I just wanted to bring it to you. And over time, I'm going to start bringing you more of these names in these non-negotiable baskets, some smaller names as well that have potential. So it's not always about the Amazons and the Googles and the Microsofts, et cetera, and the NVIDIAs. Although, those are not that expensive. That is for sure. NVIDIA trading below its 10-year valuation average is just not an expensive stock. So I think there's opportunity to be made still in big cap, but also the potentially explosive names like this. So we'll see you in the next video, everyone. Have a great day.